Hi, everybody. Welcome into today's show here on JTV. It is Hump Day. It is Wednesday. I'm David Rice. Thank you to the Insurance Circle Agency, myinsuranccircle.com. That's Adam. Hello, Adam.
Hump Day.
That's right. We had a good game Monday nights. We were not with you Monday, and then now we're back today. So looking forward to it. Got a great show coming up. The coach of the Grass Lake Warriors basketball, Marshawn Norris, will join in just a little bit. We'll get to the highlights from Lumen Northwest from Monday night if you missed the broadcast. And for the second time in 3 years, the Super Bowl will be the Chiefs and the Eagles.
I have an opinion on this that people are going to hate, but I'll have to give it out maybe towards the end of the show just so people don't fully riot. But yeah, make sure to ask me about that. I think you'll probably be fine, but
let's start in high school hoops. This past Friday, Derek Sanders from Columbia Central passed up Charles Richardson, scoring 19 points on Friday to now be Columbia Central's new all-time leading scorer in program history with 1,188 points. So congratulations to Derek Sanders. He hit the 1,000 career points mark, just not that far back, and now becoming Columbia's all-time leading scorer with an emphatic dunk, too. I'll have to show you the video, Adam, during the break. Dunk to become the all-time leading scorer. And for the Grass Lake girls, Kate Starkey broke the Warriors program record for career steals on Friday, now with 241. And, of course, we'll get to the highlights later. On Monday night, not really a lot of action happening around the area in high school hoops, but Lumen barely hanging on to beat Northwest 60-55. And as Coach Josh Trope said in the post-game interview, this was Northwest Super Bowl. But no, we'll get to the highlights in a little bit. You know, looking at Northwest, though, you can just, because they lost a lot from last year. Because we've seen them the past couple of years. They've been a good team. Coming into this game, they were 3-9, but they had some key junior, senior pieces that, are exceptional players, but also, it's tough at the top of the conference for them. They're going to be in a tough district. Jackson High is in their district, I believe, too. So I don't really look at them as, 3-9, now 3-10, and they gave Lumen Christi a really, really good fight, considering Lumen just came off, losing to Riverview Richard, but then beating one of the top 10 teams in Division IV, Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart. They played Friday against Sacred Heart, Monday night, right back at it against Northwest, and they actually have it back-to-back and played Tuesday night against Green Hills. So 3 games in 5 days for them, but got to give Northwest a lot of credit. So for the way that they, at home, came out and, as we mentioned in the pregame, me and Max coming in, Northwest only averaged 45 points per game. Lumen averaged almost 70. If Northwest was going to have a chance in this game, they can't give up 65, 70, 75-plus points. And you got the feeling, like, after that opening quarter, a few minutes in, right? Like you mentioned, that this was going to be different than what we anticipated.
yeah, I think after that first quarter, it was just kind of like, here we go. Like, this is not what we thought. But, I think Lumen Christi made some mistakes in that game that kept it a lot closer. We were commenting on it. They were kind of just chucking up threes at one point, not really being smart with their shot selections. So.
Right, and that's what we mentioned on the broadcast, and them just trying to crawl back into the game when they were down by 7 or 8.
It was just like that wasn't going to be the way to do it. You weren't going to be able to just kind of like almost half court shoot your way out of it. So, they had,
3 of their 5 starters shoot over 40% from 3, but they just really struggled to shoot the basketball. And at the beginning of the game, some of their free throws didn't go down. There were some turnovers. So a lot to clean up.
Northwest played great defensive basketball. That was the other thing. I can't remember the kid that got the big block on Cadell.
He got several of them.
He got a
Jalen
few.
Jordan.
Yes, and they were sick. That was a really good play. So I mean, they played great defensively, and they earned the right to hang in there, but just couldn't shut the door.
Well, the Mounties this coming Friday will play in the Northwest-Western rivalry at the Metropolis of Parma on Friday night.
That's always a fun game.
Yeah.
Anytime those teams can face.
And Western's only a game or two above them in the conference standings. So this is huge, too, for the conference standings implications. So for more high school hoops and other sports and other scores each day, check out our Center for Family Health scoreboard every day online on our website, jtv.tv. And, of course, our photo galleries brought to you by Orthopedic Rehab Specialists on there as well. Former Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn has officially been hired as the new head coach for the New York Jets. What's funny about that is they announced it.
I was wondering if you were going to mention this.
I have to.
Yeah,
right after, for those of you that watched last Wednesday's episode, and we mentioned, is he going to go there? If he does, then blah, blah, blah. And right after we were done taping, we got the breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
Funny how that all worked out.
Well, it was funny. We walked out of the podcast room. I went over to my desk to transfer the footage, and it was the second I went to go do that, you walked up to me. You're like, breaking news, he signed with the Jets. And I'm like, what? We just talked about, like,
we just did a whole
happen.
15, 20 minutes discussion on that.
That was so funny.
He, of course, Aaron Glenn played for the Jets from 1994 to 01. He was the 12th pick in the 1994 draft out of Texas A&M. And now the Lions have to fill both their O and defensive coordinator positions, but they did. The new offensive coordinator, Broncos pass game coordinator, John Morton, will now be the Lions offensive coordinator. And linebackers coach for the Detroit Lions, internal promotion, Kelvin Shepard, now the DC. How do we feel about those two?
I'm going to trust. I know you probably have your own opinion because you're a Packers fan, but I'm going to trust anything that these guys do right now. They haven't showed me to not believe in them at this point. So, you know what? If that's the coaches they think are going to give them the best chance to win, then I'm happy with it. I don't know if it has to be established people or not. Like, has to be established from outside.
Well, because coming in when Sheila hired Brad Holmes and
Everybody
Dan
was like,
Campbell, everybody was like, what?
Right, and that's why it's just like Dan Campbell is the smartest. Both of those guys were the smartest decisions that the Lions franchise has ever made. Probably up there with drafting Barry Sanders. Probably those are probably the ones. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this team. But look at this offense. Am I scared about our offense not being good? Who, other than a couple players that we just have to re-sign, everybody that you know and love is back. So, well, maybe you wouldn't love, but all of us fans know and love will be back. So I'm not worried.
And Ben Johnson, of course, now with the Bears, and he took a couple lower assistants with him as well. I didn't know, maybe I did, but I forgot. Antoine Randall L. was the special teams coach for the Lions, and now he's going over to be an assistant head coach in special teams with the Bears.
Which he was able to, Antoine Randall L., when he came to the team, was the wide receiver coach, strictly, and then, went to special teams, and then he'll be wide receiver coach / assistant coach from what I hear. So it's like a double position, I guess.
Well, we'll see what the future looks like for the Jets.
It's so early. One last thing I do want to mention before we move on is that, I do like that, like if I'm Aaron Glenn, it's a very interesting situation to join this team, as we were talking.
Just like we mentioned.
Yeah, but I think that early draft pick is very appealing. You're not going to get the top, you don't have the top two. So Shadur and Travis Hunter might be out, but there's a lot of good talent in this draft. So I would not be surprised if they get a really good player up there. So that's very appealing. So I understand why he took the job.
Right. And the Jets have a top 10 pick.
And a great defense that just didn't put it together last year, but the pieces are there. So you combine with that defense and a couple of their
There's a few
players,
offensive pieces that are there too.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall.
They need an offensive line, though.
Right.
They need
That's the
offensive
problem.
line, and then they need to focus on their defense, was what I think I said last show. And Aaron Glenn's the guy to focus on the defense, but they just need to bring offensive line help. You come from a line system that focuses on that, so I wouldn't be shocked if that's what they do.
And maybe you don't have to, but I would still be at least searching maybe to see what quarterback is out there, because you don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. And because they have a top 10 pick, if Cam Ward is available,
To trade up, you think?
because Cam Ward's going to be top 5.
I think he's top 3. I'd be surprised.
Sanders, Ward, Hunter? Not in that order. But
I mean, always an offensive lineman can sneak in there because of how coveted that position is. But I just think that it's people are so quick to draft to trade up. Quarterbacks are usually way overvalued, so I could see somebody trading up to the number 2 spot to take him, or they could take him with number 1. Maybe I hear some people don't like Shedeur, so we'll see.
there's a few teams apparently Dion will not let his son play for.
It's the Eli Manning situation all over again.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to play for this team. Okay, well, if they draft you,
Hey,
they could trade him on draft
worked
night,
out for
but-
Eli.
Yeah.
Worked out for John Elway. Maybe it's a good idea to do it. I don't know.
Well, Kobe originally got drafted by the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, well, that
and
wasn't
then
his fault, right? They just traded
right.
him.
Then they traded him to L.A. What a mistake that was,
Oh, my
right?
goodness.
5 championships later, and
Crazy.
however many points he scored, the average.
One of the greatest ever.
By the way, over the weekend, it was 5 years since we lost Kobe.
Oh, my goodness.
5 years. Do you remember when do you remember where you were
That's
at
so
when
weird.
you
I was
heard the
gonna say the
news?
same. It's yes, I 100% remember. I was visiting my buddy in Grand Rapids, and I was at I think I just woke up. I was on his couch. I just woke up on his couch, and it was the day of the Pro Bowl. And I remember being
Yep.
like, "Hey, let's because we just woke up." I was like, "All right, let's just turn on the Pro Bowl." And I remember it coming across my phone, and I was just like, "This has to be fake." But then it was TMZ, and I was just like, "Eh." And I clicked on it, and it the site was crashed. And when the site was crashed was when I knew I was like, this is real. Like, I'm like,
So
everybody's
many
looking at
people,
this right
right.
now. Yeah.
And sometimes people look, at TMZ, and it's like, oh, it's TMZ, it's paparazzi, it ain't real. But for some reason, TMZ, number one, they're always the first to report on something like this. And number two, 95% of the time, it's not fake.
Yeah.
So as soon as you see it from TMZ or from ESPN, that's,
Well, and one of the biggest things that I personally remember that still sticks with me is how, it was hours after it, so we already heard the news and it was already confirmed and everything, of how not real it felt. Like, I remember driving around, we drove to, get lunch somewhere or something like that, and I remember, on the car drive, just being like, this just doesn't seem real that Kobe Bryant isn't here. Still, to this day, I remember talking to Brandon about it, and Brandon's like, still doesn't make sense that Kobe's not here,
Right. And his daughter, too.
And his daughter, for sure, and everybody that passed away there. Yeah.
Because his daughter was a hell of a basketball player too, and obviously he coached their AAU travel team, and she was definitely going to play Division I. If she would have played really well, she would have been in the WNBA.
Huge. That would have been. Imagine her against Caitlin Clark later in Caitlin Clark's career. Like, that sort of stuff could have happened, and we'll never know.
That would have been one of the most watched basketball games of all time, I think.
Oh, for sure.
I remember I was this, because it was already 5 years ago. My younger brother was a lot younger then, and it was one of those little kid basketball tournaments, and I was there watching. It was at Jackson College, and there were two girls sitting behind me, and so one of them was looking at their phone. You're like, hey, here, Kobe just died, and I didn't really, obviously I'm not gonna eavesdrop on their conversation, but I heard them, and just thinking in my head before I said anything to anybody, I'm like, this can't.
Yeah, this has to be fake.
This cannot.
Right.
I don't know where they're getting their source from, and then, I dove more into it, and then I saw the TMZ piece, and then, all the tweets started coming out, and that's, and then it hit more, I think, for a lot of people watching TNT that next day, where they had the tribute in the Staples Center, Staples at the time.
Oh man, that was heavy. That was heavy. I mean,
Shaq, gotta feel
oh,
terrible for
well,
it.
and one of those things where it's like, I always have like my list of like favorite basketball players and stuff like that, or favorite players that I've watched. And of course, I loved watching Kobe, but like I didn't realize, I guess, how much that I really did grow up with him until he did pass away. And I see all these moments and stuff, and it's just like, man, I remember watching every single one of these. It's crazy.
The rotator cuff, 81-point game.
Yep.
His very last game, 60 points. And
the
the day
greatest
before
final game.
Yeah, and the day before he passed, he was in Philly, where he's originally from, Lower Merion, to watch LeBron pass him up on the
that's
all-time
right.
scoring list.
Yeah, and I
the day
remember
before.
that being even confusing me, but it's like, well, he was just there. Like we just saw
Right.
him. Like it was just
Right.
Yeah.
5 years already.
Thanks for bringing it down, David. I
No,
appreciate it.
I
Man.
know.
What the heck?
I just I remembered that.
Yeah. No, it was interesting to talk about.
So again, coming up later in the show, we will show you highlights from the Titans and the Mounties. Again, the Chiefs and Eagles for the second time in 3 years. But before that, when we come back, the coach of Grass Lake basketball, Marshawn Norris, is going to be joining us here on JTV. Stay tuned. Welcome back here on JTV. Thank you to the Insurance Circle Agency. Visit myinsuranccircle.com. The Grass Lake boys basketball team currently 13-0 right now. Tonight, Tuesday, they take on Homer as their quest to win their first Cascades Conference championship since 1971 for this program. The last undefeated team left in our area, and we're happy to have now joining the show the head coach from the Grass Lake Warriors, Marshawn Norris. Coach, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So before we kind of dive into this season and how it's been so far, tell our viewers or our listeners a little bit first about your coaching background or where you played college at and any prior coaching stops that you had before Grass Lake.
Yep, so I finished my collegiate career up at Culver Stockton College in Canton, Missouri. That was back in 2013, and then when I graduated, I was the assistant coach there for a couple of years before I took the head coaching job at Jackson College for a couple of years. And been coaching travel teams and doing individual skill training with kids, and then got the opportunity at Grass Lake, and very, very pleased with how I've been accepted and how the players have taken to what I'm trying to get done.
Absolutely. Well, right now you guys are 13-0. Best start to a season for the boys program in a very long time. So how, for you, how's the season been so far and with this group of kids?
I think this is a really special group. I mean, we all know Braden Lath, but I'm really more pleased with the others and how they've came along, especially from last year to this year. Carmine Beltran and his growth, Sal Vitale and his growth as being a leader. Bryant Cook, last year we only had him for 6 games because of injury. His toughness and energy is unmatched from anybody probably in the whole county. And then Jacob Collins, I mean, he's 2 steals a night, 2 blocks a night, a lot of deflections, and he'll go get you 17 on any night. So just the group that we got, and everybody, they put their hard hat on and they go to work every day. And I think I tell them all the time, we're not a good team. We just work really, really hard.
Right, for sure. So coming off of last year and then coming into this season, did you kind of have a feeling with this team and this group of kids that this team was going to be, this season was going to be different and that this is a special group?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, even from last year, we just needed to get to know each other and understand the goals, set goals and attack those goals every day. And I think this year we came in, we made goals, and we just, every day that we come into the gym, we're attacking goals. So definitely knew I had a special group before I ever even got the job. So,
of course, you guys still have a few games left, but just looking ahead after that to districts, it's quite a tough district that you guys are in. Hanover Horton currently tied for first in the west side of the Cascades, and then Lumen Christi, who's 14-1. So these games, and especially the tough game against Center a few weeks ago, you got them again coming up, and Leslie as well before the season's done. So how have these competitive conference games and other games that you guys have been in prepared you guys for this really tough district that's going to be coming up?
Yeah, so our mindset every game, no matter what the score is 0-0 for every possession. So we're just trying to win as many plays as we can and see what that adds up to. Lumen Christi is a great team. Hannah Warden, great team. Napoleon, great program. Anybody can win that district. I firmly believe that. But as long as we keep our 0-0 mentality, I think we can compete with anybody.
Of course, you talked about earlier some of the team leaders and some of the senior, junior leadership. Of course, we know Braden Late, but in addition to that, like you mentioned, Carmine and Sal Vitale and Bryant Cook, are there any other players who maybe unexpectedly or expected have stepped up in a leadership role or a new spot on the team this year?
No, everybody who's on the team this year outside of Braden Wayne played last year, played varsity. But everybody has grown. Everybody has grown. Braden and Bryant are really great leaders for our team, vocal leaders, but everybody, any given night, you could be the guy. And I tell the guys all the time, you're all the man, and you're all the man for different reasons. And as long as you go out and you do your job and he does his job, we'll have a chance at the end of the game.
Absolutely. So you graduated from Napoleon, and of course, this Friday, you guys are going to be taking on the Pirates. We'll be there for the girls and the boys game here on JTV. What are you looking forward to with Friday's game, coaching against the team or the school that you played for here?
This will be my fourth game against them. I don't really have too many emotions about it. It is cool. It is kind of weird when I hear them say Pirates and I'm saying Warriors, but I just look at it as, they're the next team that's in our way of achieving our goal. I'm a Warrior now, so not too much emotion about that matchup though.
So tell us a little bit about Napoleon and going into this game. Obviously, the past handful of years, they've won the conference or been in the conference championship. Very different team this year than what they've had the previous couple of years. Obviously, when you lose a lot of key senior players like they had previously, Grant Bradley, Devontae Hayburn, Van Poppel, Wires, etc. They're a little bit younger, but they still have some key pieces, though, from last year's team that can make a difference in this game coming up.
Yeah, definitely. They have a player who I've known his dad for a while, Tyler Nall, great player. And then Coach Siddell, he does a great job of getting his guys prepared every single night. So we definitely know there's no game really in our conference that we could call a pushover. And we definitely know Napoleon is not one of those, any type of pushover team. So Coach will do a really good job of having them up for the challenge, and we'll be excited and hope to exceed what they're trying to do and impose our will on them.
So kind of stepping away from the games coming up on Friday, just about coaching and philosophies, what would you say if you had any core philosophies that you try to instill in your team, maybe both on and off the floor?
I wanted to be a coach because I was always surrounded by good coaches, be it football, basketball. Antonio Parker, head football coach at Jackson High, he's a good friend of mine. We've worked together. He was a camp counselor of mine when I was a kid growing up at the King Center. And just one thing that I've pulled from him is to care about the players. And then Jack Schrader, he was my coach, and I worked with him after I graduated college in Canton, Missouri, and just always being over-prepared. You can never be too prepared. So I don't really have a philosophy. I think every group is different, so I like to be able to change with the groups and do what's best for that group. But as long as I care about the players and make sure that they're overly prepared, those are the two things that I can always hang my hat on.
So is there any type of approach that you have, especially early in the season? Obviously, everybody besides one is back on the team this year from last year. But how do you approach building that team chemistry if you had to do that this year?
No, I didn't have to do too much of that. I think the baseball teams that they've played on their whole lives together, the football teams they've played on their whole lives together have definitely helped in that aspect. but just me trying to fit into their group, into their culture, and just have them having a whole year of understanding of what I'm expecting, of the expectations. I mean, it's just little stuff. There's little stuff that I don't have to say anymore because I said them all last year. Now I got Carmine saying them for me, or I got Sal saying them for me, or Braden just being a visual leader for the guys doing the right thing and they following suit.
When it comes to preparing and getting ready for games, is there any role that film study plays in your guys' preparation, and how do you guys use it if you do to improve your team's performance?
Yep. So they all have a Huddle account, and games get uploaded to Huddle, and they can view it on their own. I'm not really a big team film study guy. I like to just go out there on the court and I tell you what I've seen. And we mock other teams and have scout other teams. So we just do it in that manner. We don't have team film studies, but they all take a look at the other team prior to. I can monitor how much time they spend on Huddle, so I know they're all watching.
Is there any big rewarding moment maybe that you've had as a coach with this group, or since you've been at Grass Lake so far?
Can you repeat that?
Has there been any rewarding moments that you've experienced as a coach here at Grass Lake so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's not ever winning and losing. It's just the fact that they come in every day and they get better every day. That's the most rewarding thing I can say to this season. A guy who came onto the team late, he played last year and made the decision that he wasn't going to play, and he came onto the team late, Nate Pettit. And, he was the hero of the night against Michigan Center. So, that was real rewarding for me because he came and he worked and he continues to work, pay attention to the details of things and put forth the proper effort. So I can say that's a big reward for me, just him wanting to come back to the team and how hard he works every day. And like I say, we don't have the most talent. We don't have the most talent in the county. We don't have the most talent in the Cascades Conference, but we work really, really hard.
What do you think is the hardest part of being a coach in high school basketball? Maybe that a lot of people wouldn't think of or maybe don't realize.
I think a lot of people would think that basketball stops after practice or basketball stops on the weekend. But this is 7 days a week, 24/7. You're thinking about your team, you're game planning for your team, you're watching other teams, you're on the internet looking at other teams' schedules and their film. It just doesn't stop, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. I got a 6-year-old daughter. I'm trying to get her to understand that, but she takes to it really well. She likes basketball, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, it's just a never-ending job, and I don't think people understand that.
Yeah, and this is producer Adam here. What I was wondering too, obviously, to do this job, like you said, you gotta love basketball. You growing up, who were the players that you were into growing up, and kind of maybe developed your style after?
I wouldn't say. When I was younger, it was DeJuan Jefferson. DeJuan Jefferson, he played at Spring Arbor. He was a camp counselor also at the King Center. I can just remember him. 5th, 6th grade, and I couldn't shoot 3-point shots. I was just too little, I guess. And he taught me how to shoot 3-point shots, and he's still a great friend of mine. So DeJuan Jefferson, just a local guy. Jared Axon, worked out with him a lot. Dorian Pierce is a really good friend of mine. We talk about basketball all day, every day. Keontae Howell, those guys. The list could go on and on. I wouldn't say I emulated my game after him, but just taking their work ethic and working at the game and wanting to be as successful as they were at the game.
Of course, you played basketball collegiately. What advice would you give to players looking to play basketball at the college level and to try to work at that more to be able to have the opportunity to play at the next level?
First and foremost, you gotta be hitting the books. I was a college coach, and I know the first question that I always ask was, how is he in the classroom? And no coach is ever going to lie for you about your grades. So you got to make sure you're hitting the books. and understand that basketball is secondary because without the books, you can't get to that next level. But as far as on the court stuff and working, everybody is working. You always have to have the mindset that you're not going to let someone else outwork you. And if you have that mindset, you can go as far as you want to. I firmly believe that.
So, with being a coach and trying to balance it all, how do you handle kind of I imagine a lot of stress that comes with being a coach, or do you have any personal, routines or strategies for managing that, or something with the team to try to help balance everything?
Yeah, I always make sure that I leave work like game day today. So I'll probably leave work today about 2 o'clock because the bus leaves at 4. I always like to get an hour to myself of just doing nothing. Just I might take a nap. I might sit there and scroll TikTok or something, but just an hour after work in between getting ready for the bus ride or the home game of doing nothing. And I think that helps me a lot of being able to transition from one thing to the next. I always feel like days when I go to practice after work, the guys might get the short end of the stick because I might still be thinking about something from work. But as long as I can get that hour to myself on game days, it's a good day.
So again, coming in, or right now, your team's sitting at 13-0. Going to play tonight, obviously Tuesday at Homer, team out of the Cascades. So of course, when you played for Napoleon, there was only the 7 or 8 teams in the conference, and now over the last couple of years, obviously across all sports, but it's expanded to now 12 teams in the conference. What's that been like the past couple of years? Maybe because a few of these schools could be new opponents for you guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I don't really mind it too much. The travel is not too bad. I think Homer will be our longest trip of the season. It's like 55 minutes, so I don't mind it. I think the guys, being able to build that chemistry on the bus and all that is really good for them. And we'll play anybody. We'll play anybody, and that's not just because I'm not just saying that because we're 13-0 and we're smelling ourselves. No, we'll play anybody. I think if you want to be a good team, you should want to play everybody. You should want to show what you can do against different opponents.
Right, absolutely. So before we go, couple more things I wanted to touch on. One, it's been kind of a big topic of conversation amongst other coaches or athletes, more specifically on social media, about having a shot clock here in Michigan for high school basketball. Now, there's quite a few other states who have it or will have it in the coming years, but there's still a few states also that don't have it. Do you have any thoughts on whether having a shot clock or not, or could it be beneficial to Michigan high school basketball? Just wanted to get your thoughts, if you had any, about the shot clock.
Yeah, I did have thoughts about it until my team played in the shot clock classic this year, and I was thinking that we would score more points than we ever did all season, and we scored just about our average. So even if you look up the data, it proves that it doesn't change the game much. I mean, you would be hard pressed to find a team that possesses the ball for longer than 35 seconds anyway in high school basketball. So it's the only issue that ever could occur is if a team of lesser talent tried to do the stall tactic, and you don't see that often either. Teams play with pride and integrity, which is good. So I don't have any real feelings about that after coaching in a high school game with a shot clock this season.
And then one more. So there's also been a couple former coaches in the area, but now athletic directors at other schools who, have mentioned on social media that want the idea of having the public schools be in a totally separate divisions, whether it's 1 through 4 for basketball or 8 for football or other sports, having public and the private schools be separated. And their thoughts on that were that you see half of like the football trophies being won by Catholic or private schools. And there's a few coaches now who have really started to put that message out there that they need to separate the two between the public and private schools, and that the private schools have a much larger advantage in what they can do with their teams. I don't know if you've heard anything with yourself about that, but any thoughts on with the private schools playing, keeping it how it is or changing it up?
Yeah, I've heard talks about that, but I don't really have a real feeling about it. Just so long as everybody's operating with integrity and following the rules that they have for whatever governing body they are under. As long as everybody's following their rules, I'm fine with whatever. So if the Catholic schools are winning championships, then maybe the public schools to start taking their model, whatever they're doing to win these championships. So I don't want to take away from the hard work that Catholic schools are doing to earn these championships by my own personal feelings. So I have no problem with what they have going on.
Right, for sure. So again, one more time, we will be at Grass Lake for those watching or listening Friday night. We'll start with the girls' game at 5:15. They tip off at 5:30, and then we will get to watch Coach Norris and the Grass Lake boys following that to take on the Napoleon Pirates. Grass Lake 13-0 right now. Head coach Marshawn Norris. Appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
We'll be back here on JTV in a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome back here on JTV. Thanks to Coach Norris for joining the show, and looking forward to Grass Lake Napoleon Friday.
Yeah, that made me even more excited for that game.
Yeah, for sure. We had a great game, though, Monday night. We were at Northwest. Coming into that game, it probably wasn't expected to be a 5-point game.
Man, I was shocked. I was shocked. They had a chance to win. Northwest could have won it.
Right. And they were tied at 16 after the first quarter. And Osterberg had those like 3 or 4 threes in a row in the first quarter for Northwest. And after that, it was like, whoa, okay. And it was, even though it was tied or close or back and forth with the lead almost the whole game, you still got the feeling, to me at least I did, that really the energy was like all Northwest at the start of the game, right up until maybe the end of the third or the start of the last quarter.
I almost feel like the energy was there even deep into the fourth quarter, I feel like Northwest. But it was just like, they'd miss a couple shots, Lumen would hit theirs and just cut, they'd be up by 10, and then in a matter of a minute, it'd be down to 2,
Right. Really quick, thank you to Pataki Orthodontics, Grass Lake, Hillsdale, and Coldwater. And for more, visit them on Facebook or call their office today. A great smile, always in style, with Pataki Orthodontics. So, again, we'll have it replayed this weekend on JTV, the full game between the Titans and Northwest. But if you missed the game Monday night, here are a few highlights. Monday Night Hoops here on JTV is underway from Northwest. And the Titans will have it first. Here's Luke Trope, our spotlight player to watch. For the Titans. Gonna swing this. Jordan with it again. Here's a deep 3. Pass from Jordan, and that one's good. Osterberger right there. Winner gets the Mounties out in front early. That's the junior number 10, Garrett Osterberg. Williams with a finish. They're up 3-2, almost 2 minutes gone by in our opening quarter. Here's another 3 from up top, and that one's good. The junior Osterberg. Almost, ball's on the floor, picked up by Lumen. Nice look from Timmy Kraut. And advantage right there to get that rebound. 21, Hudson Cooper. Another 3 for Osterberg. 3 in a row, and it's 9. Jordan gets the pump fake. Back to Graham. Deep 3, and that one's good. 4 for 4, and a nice start for the Mounties. Pushing the pace. Burgess, another exciting freshman for the Titans. Crowley gonna drive in. Back to Burgess. Corner 3.
I see a 3 show tonight, David. Both on more, though, with the average.
Jordan inside to Cooper. Using his size on Crowley. Trying to spin, maneuver his way in. 14-7. Trope gonna find Williams. Gonna swing it. Burgess, back-to-back corner 3s.
That's what the Titans need now to get back.
2:50 to play. Jordan, one-leg jumper falling away.
And he got the friendly roll on that one, too.
On defense here, Lumen with a chance to tie. Trope, crossover baseline. Back to Kalahar. 3 points for number 3, and we're tied.
Interesting there, David. Northwest totally let him have that. He has not missed a 3 yet. He's missed a couple jumpers, but he hasn't missed a 3.
Here he is with the ball. He's going to drive in on Trope with the size advantage, and it cuts it to 5. Northwest with it, down by 5. 3:40 to play. Drive inside by Osterberg, and it's a 3-point game.
Jared Osterberg there with his first. Northwest has to capitalize, David. Titans have been uncharacteristic from the 3-point line tonight.
Quick pass, there's Cooper, and it's a 1-point game. Crowley gonna take it himself, and an easy left-hand finish.
Mounties just opened the door on that one to his brother.
His older brother, back to Cooper, has to save it in. Deep 3, Osterberg, and that one's cash. We are tied.
David, he's still 100%.
And a takeaway by the Mounties. A chance to take the lead. Here's Jordan. Back to Osterberg. Corner, Graham. Good! Northwest with a 3-point lead.
Northwest putting on a clinic right there from Cooper. He did everything by himself right there.
There's a 3 from Graham, no good. And another offensive rebound. Here's a 3 from deep, and that one's good.
5, 4, 5. I worry about the boys getting tired out there.
Here's Jordan, catch and shoot. 3 is good. Mounties have the lead. Kalahar, back to Williams. Thought about it, trying to put on a move here. Put the team on his back. He did on that play. It's a 1-point game. 65. Got a big win against a really good D4 team, Sacred Heart, on Friday. And here they are against the Mounties. Trope hits a 3. What an answer.
Offensive fouls, they do not go to the line since it occurred on the offense. It's only defensive fouls where you get the free throw shots.
Trope hits a 3. Lumen up by 5. Back-to-back 3s for Luke Trope. But gotta think, I would call them the favorite going into Western Friday.
Oh, most certainly.
And then 9-6 Coldwater after that next week on Tuesday. So that's gonna do it. Lumen Christi is able to survive. What a game, Max. 60-50. Welcome back here on JTV. Again, you can check out more highlights, the full game replay of Lumen Northwest over the weekend, and photos on our website too at jtv.tv. The Super Bowl is officially set. Kansas City looking to the first ever three-peat if they can top the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles running over the Commanders in the NFC Championship. And the Chiefs, another classic matchup with Buffalo in the postseason. But the Bills, again in the postseason come up short against Kansas City.
I saw a graphic that was just like a black and white photo of Josh Allen sitting on the bench with his head down, and it's every single final score against the Chiefs in the playoffs, all in a row. And it's just unbelievable because it's all like one score as well on top of it. It's all like, and it was all CBS, which I thought was weird.
Right. Well, CBS has been doing the AFC.
That's true, but like
since...
even these were like divisional round. Like even the divisional rounds were CBS too. I guess they might just do all AFC, but
right. So that man, I'm sure, and I know you have some thoughts on this.
I do.
You know, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, you get your stuff out first then.
That wanted it to be Buffalo versus
Detroit, I guess, going into the playoffs, right? Those
yeah,
are probably
Buffalo
the two
versus
darlings.
Detroit. But because, you know, the Lions were out, it was really Buffalo versus the Eagles. You know, there was a few people
They
actually.
probably would have loved Buffalo, Washington just because
I was just going to say Buffalo, Washington.
A lot of people hate the Eagles fan base, you know.
And again, like I mentioned, it's one of those classic Chiefs-Bills postseason matchups.
Unbelievable. Back and forth again.
Yes, and again, it came down to one play for Buffalo deciding it, Kansas City getting the ball back, scoring, taking the lead.
Well, and then, you know, that play where it's like they could have, it was third, or it must have been fourth down. They had a chance to stop them, or third down, I can't remember. And it was that play where Kansas City ran that slant. So it was like three guys slanted this way, and then one guy on a drag route coming across. So it was just caught it, ran it for a first down. It's just like, if the game is going to come down to Andy Reid having to make a good offensive call, that call will be made from just what we've seen over the past 2 decades of him coaching.
And if you're Buffalo on offense, how do you not know or expect their defense to bring the pressure? Because you know that's what Steve Spagnuolo is going to do. You know he's going to bring the heat.
Yeah.
And I guess on a few of those sacks or lost plays or short run play, like I feel like they didn't expect it on some of those plays, but you played against them enough, especially against that coordinator, to know you got to know what's coming.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And the Chiefs are back in it again after all this.
So for the second time in 3 years, the Chiefs against the Eagles, and the Eagles coming off that huge win against Washington. What a run, by the way, this year for Jaden Daniels in Washington. A great season for them. They won 4 games last year. They come in, I mean, I know he has head coaching experience, but Dan Quinn, head coach, first year with Jaden Daniels. You really didn't expect much out of this team this year. And then they make it to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable run. I mean, as much as it hurts my soul beating Detroit, that was an amazing accomplishment for that franchise with how they looked last year and how well that offense has played this year. But a great run, kind of like the Lions, a great run up to this point, but just couldn't, at least in their case, just couldn't get past the Eagles, man. The Eagles are just, I don't know if we would have gotten past the Eagles, even if we would have gotten past Washington. That team is tough.
Did you see the tush push at the goal line where the defender jumped over like 4 times?
Yeah, and they had to call that rule.
Yeah.
I forgot what that's called, but
there were so many people so pissed about it, and I don't.
On which side? Saying that like.
Well, I guess there's just some people who have the comment fingers and Washington fans that are like, well, they're not allowed to say we're just gonna give them the points.
They
or
are.
have it
It's in the rule.
unsportsmanlike, but it's in the rules.
It's in the rule books. Yeah.
I've never, maybe one other time, you just don't ever see this situation happen.
And it's a smart call from Washington. That's what you're supposed to do. And the way I look at it is like, all right, we know they're going to do that. So what can we do to our advantage based on the rule book to try to take advantage of this? So I'm okay with them doing it. And more things should be done if they don't ban that, which I don't really think they should ban it, but I just think more things should be made.
I don't think they should ban any play, really.
No, unless it breaks the rules of football or something like that. I don't see them being
right. And you can't practice against that play. You know what I mean? It's just impossible.
It's hard to.
And I've never seen the Eagles not get a first down from that.
I've seen them get stopped only a few times, but I think Jason Kelsey has like 92% or something like that, I think is what he says. Like, it works 92% of the time. So I've seen it maybe not work a couple of times, but boy, it was more luck probably than anything.
So, I will finish my thoughts after. Now, you said you had a few thoughts on this being the Super Bowl matchup again, and because a lot of people didn't want this matchup to happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've observed in multiple sports. It's not just this one, but I don't understand how people are so quick to be like, I'm tired of that team being in the Super Bowl. And I want you to know, it's not like I'm rooting outright for Kansas City nor Philadelphia. I really don't know who I want to win this game. I guess if I had to, I would lean towards Kansas City, but it's not like a done deal. But I don't know why people are so quick to be like, I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl because it's just the same people in there all the time. It's just like, this is one of the greatest football runs of all time, and everybody's just complaining during it. And then in 20 years, when they look back on it, they're going to be like, I watched that. Like, oh, how cool was that? Like, look at these plays from Mahomes. It was unbelievable. It's like, then why are you hating right now? That's the thing I don't understand. It's like, why are you hating on dynasties now? Like, I bet back in the 50s and 60s when the Boston Celtics won 11 championships in 13 years, everybody that was alive during that time, later on that was a sports fan, looks back on that and be like, I got to witness, or I remember hearing, them winning these championships. It's just very odd to me that everybody has to go to that, because I want to see greatness on the football field. I don't want to see two teams that don't deserve to be in the Super Bowl be in the Super Bowl. I want to see the best. And the Eagles can prove they're the best by defeating the Chiefs and winning a championship, or the Chiefs are going to be the first ever team to three-peat. I think that's interesting. So I'm more upset because the Lions aren't in it. So I'm just like upset that the Lions aren't in it. But I'm okay with these two teams. I don't know. That's kind of my soapbox
Right, because
for the moment, I guess.
Because if it, obviously, I knew going into the playoffs, or those based on how we played the last few weeks of the regular season, obviously I knew Green Bay wasn't going to be in it.
Right.
That's a 100% chance it wasn't going to happen.
Starting off with the Eagles, a little tough.
Yeah. And if it wasn't going to be the Lions in the Super Bowl, it was going to be the Eagles against Kansas City.
Yeah.
So, people that, and I mean, I get it, right? Because let's just flat out say it. There's haters out there who, Kansas City, gets away with it every single game, and they don't deserve to be here. Sure, they had 7 or 8 games this year, not including the playoffs, that were one-score games.
To me, that's exciting. That is captivating football. And to then hate that team for having all these very close and very intriguing games as well, these superstars, is crazy to me.
Having the best tight end in the NFL on your team.
But we saw this with the Patriots. I just want to mention that.
And I was just going to say,
one of the best with the best quarterback of all time, but one of the best quarterbacks of that era. And, it with Gronk and some of their wide receivers, it was the same thing with them. And guess what? People are already starting to look back and be like, man, those Patriots teams are cool. It's just like, then why are we hating now? It's bizarre.
It's going to turn into the same thing. It already is. It already is.
And people are going to complain if they win a third championship, and everybody else is going to be, I guess, people who care about the history of football and the game are just like, this is something that, like, this is a football accomplishment. I don't care who's dating who. I don't care who's in the crowd. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't care if the NFL is getting more money because Taylor Swift is in the stands. I don't care. I care about the things that we're going to see in the future. And when you look at that history of all Super Bowl winners, and if you see Kansas City Chiefs, and then like 3 more in a row, that's unbelievable. That should be looked back on like the Celtics, and not look back on like, oh, this team sucked because they quote unquote cheated their way to a championship. It's just ridiculous.
Like you mentioned, this is the same thing that happened during the run of the Patriots. It was like, oh, Tom Brady and the Patriots and Belichick. Who's going to win it again this year? But again, it's football greatness when you have Tom Brady, the greatest player of all time, the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick, Rob Gronkowski, Edelman, Amendola, Wes Welker. I know Randy Moss didn't win a ring, which was terrible, but Randy Moss, Antonio Brown for 1 year. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
but you get my point.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's
it's like that's like those players that you named are like a cultural impact on the game. Like we see Gronk everywhere, we see Brady everywhere. Edelman now has a podcast and is kind of all over the place. All these Patriots players have made such an impact. You know, look at even like Mike Vrabel and Rodney Harrison and all these guys that are in media or doing coaching right now. So it's just weird to look at now and kind of know that in the near future, people are going to, the same people that are hating on this Super Bowl are going to be looking back and being like, man, I can't believe we got to witness Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed and all those guys and this unbelievable dynasty. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, when you think of great dynasties in sports, not just football, you go to the 50s and 60s Celtics, 11 and 13 years.
Jordan, the Bulls.
Yeah, from the late 50s until about 1970, the Vince Lombardi Packers winning 5 or 6 championships plus Super Bowls in 8 or 9 years.
And then the Yankees in the 50s, winning almost every year,
Yankees or Red Sox.
Yeah.
The 90s Bulls. The three-peat of the Lakers, early 2000s, Shaq and Kobe.
And these are all teams that we look
Golden
fondly
State.
on now. Yeah, you know, there's teams that we look fondly on now. Even like Golden State, I guess would be the most near, would be the closest to current date. And even like those early, maybe not the Kevin Durant one, but like the early Steph, Clay, that first championship, people look fondly already on that team, and we're not that far away from it. So we'll see a shift.
I wouldn't really call it a dynasty because they didn't win every single championship to the finals that they made it, but LeBron, D. Wade, Miami, they made the finals like 5 years, 6 years in a row. Now they won 2 of them, but still they made the finals.
But yeah. And that's probably of like, I would say like our generation, but specifically like your age. I would say that's like one of the most fondly looked back teams is that and they were hated. People hated those teams.
Yeah.
And it's like we look back and it's just like, oh man, Mario
and part of it
Chalmers
is
and all
also
these guys.
and also part of it is just people who just hate LeBron because of how he is, or even for some reason who bring politics into it. There's people who politically hate him,
or they hate him because he's good, which is kind of what I think this whole thing is that people just hate watching other people do well. Like the thing I've heard a lot with this is it sucks that one team has to win the Super Bowl, but it's great that one team gets to lose the Super Bowl. That's what I hear about these two teams. And I think what a ridiculous way to look at it. People just want to see people do bad.
People are haters.
And they can't deal with Mahomes being like almost perfect. Like in terms of he doesn't get into trouble off field. He's the best quarterback in the league right now. All these things. He's like makes all these crazy plays. People just can't stand that. They just something has to be wrong. Something has to be wrong. He's got to do bad. He's got to collapse eventually. It's like, no, this is a cool ride to be on to see this guy play this game.
Top 3 quarterback in the league. But yes, I agree with your
He's
point
the best
there.
He really is the best quarterback in the league. 1-1. You're doing a fantasy draft. You got to pick one player, and you're starting with quarterback. I don't know how you don't pick Mahomes.
I would either pick him or Lamar.
Lamar just hasn't won.
No, I know, and that's why he's not, for most people, in that same conversation as Mahomes. Like in this past, however long of a window you want to make it, years. I know Aaron Rodgers only had 1 Super Bowl, but when you talk about great quarterbacks in this last little window of years, Brady, but then after Brady, of course, Mahomes, Rodgers.
It'd be fun to make a tier list of quarterbacks one day for us to, because I think our stuff would be relatively similar to how we would grade some of these quarterbacks. Because Lamar, Mahomes, and Allen, I'd all put, maybe in Burrow as well, I'd put all in like tier 1. And then it kind of starts to, and that's me loving Jared Goff, but I know that it's not,
Compared to Mahomes,
I know that it's
Lamar
not that level. Yeah, of course.
Right.
I'm not delusional.
And real quick before we go, Friday night, as we mentioned earlier with Coach Norris on the show, we will be at Grass Lake Friday nights. Homecoming for D. Rice. At Grass Lake.
Back in Grass Lake.
That's right. Me and Pat O'Dowd back together Friday night.
Up in the thing. What was that called?
The crow's nest.
The crow's nest.
No, we will not be up in the box.
Oh, you won't be?
Nope.
Okay, darn.
I wish we were.
Yeah.
When we first started, or back when it was taped games, we were up there.
Yeah.
And that's a cool angle up there.
It is.
Seeing
Yeah.
it back down. But Grass Lake Napoleon, the girls will kick us off beginning at 5:15, and the boys following, thanks to Minuteman, Sewer, and Drain. And again, thank you to Pataki Orthodontics. Thank you to the Insurance Circle Agency. And thanks to Coach Norris for joining the show, too. So
That was awesome.
yeah, if you missed any part of it, go back and listen or watch it online on JTV.tv. So have a great weekend, and we will talk to you Monday.